What assumptions do you want it not to make? What do you already know that it needs to know?
Hey, it's Ronsley. Welcome, you AI geek, to Amplify AI.
It needs to know that management will pay more and consider events like this for their staff, but they'll want to pay less and not consider these for their leadership team. I've developed this for a couple of different levels within organizations. What they expect for their sales teams is that it's obviously got financial output. So what will the sales teams deliver? Whereas at the corporate level, they want this for an organizational capability output. And who's the market and what are their challenges? So some of the stuff there about tailoring the workshops, I'm already doing that because the sailing analogy works really well for so many different sorts of outcomes.
So if you want to get known, is it for sales or you don't want to get known for the leadership?
Well, you have more impact with leadership, but it's sales that there's a lot more opportunity for this with sales.
Yeah, feed a starving crowd rather than create hunger for people
Yeah,
that are
exactly.
already like full and are wasting food.
Yeah.
So if it's sales, so here's the information you need to know. Decision makers will pay more for sales teams than for leadership management team. Let's put sales teams as the major audience. So what I want to do as well, you got a website that we can go to?
DianeMcGrath.com.au.
Is your bio there?
It's in there.
Copying and pasting that. What I'm also going to do is I have a prompt here that I use just to analyze audience. So I'm just going to copy and paste the prompt here, which is like, just help me brainstorm my audience. Use what you know from this conversation for your analysis. So a couple of things I want you to notice here. Firstly, I started not from a blank page, right? So what tends to happen, a couple of things. First, in a blank page, you don't know where to go. So use AI to get to where you need to go, and then give it context for the process that you decide to use. So I've right now been giving it more context, which is, okay, this is very broad in terms of decision makers. And we spoke about the workshop, but let's focus on the sales teams. And this is my philosophy. This is who I am. Ideate what my audience's pain points, fears, beliefs, values are. So audience pain points. Can you tell me how far close it is from reality looking at this?
Yes, depends on the company. How about the third one? So turnover rates, yes. Pressure targets, yes, very strong. Job insecurity, market volatility, technology obsolescence.
Do you have a keynote that you normally give, or do you tailor it every time, or what's
I
your
tailor it
process?
every time.
So how do you tailor it? Like, what's your process for tailoring?
Oh, yeah. So I'll do research to make sure I'm up to date on that industry and that organization. I'll hold at least 1 to 2 briefing calls with the client, and then I'll do further research on that space, and then I start to draft from there out of my work, and I'll do some check-ins as well to make sure I'm hitting the mark.
And when do they pay you, before or after?
Usually after. Sometimes I'll get a portion up front, or sometimes we get a chunk more than a portion up front, like a large amount. So there'll be, it depends on the contract. Usually after.
So what I would do if I was you, and I'm in this position right now, and I have this, I would get to this point and say, I agree with these things and I don't agree with these things. But here's my audience's pain points. And based on that, now this is my client, I'm going to deliver this. What do I need to structure, and how do I need to structure to make sure that their pain points are being fixed? Okay. I would even go past ChatGPT for where you're at right now. I would just stay here. I would get results. What I mean by that is, don't worry about the tools, worry about the process. So what process will get you results? Do you need to figure out the process to get leads, to have become prospects, to have the conversation for them to become clients? Is that the thing that you got to focus on? Or do you have to focus on the conversion, or do you have to focus on the delivery, or do you have to focus on whatever? But the point that we got to all make and focus on is, what's the lowest hanging fruit? We kind of go for the things that are hard because it'll take time to do the hard thing, just a fear mechanism. But rather than that, just go and say, what's the lowest hanging fruit and what will deliver quickest? And what will deliver quickest is revenue. So what will bring the money in now? And then you can do all the research and all the extra, meetings and everything else to deliver on that. But I feel like that is important. So I'm going to leave that with you and hopefully go through this process and so goal is to get in front of as many new in the next week. So right now everyone's doing budgets, especially overseas. Like you are in the perfect time right now to go out and do this thing right now. Do you know about this AI that I created I'm sure it's in the school community. It's called Learn Any Skill.
This is my golden nugget from this call today.
Yeah, this is a really, really interesting and powerful AI. The simplest AI to make is a custom GPT, which is what this is. So this is Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Chef. It's the third in his trilogy of 4-hour books. And in this book, he talks about how to learn a skill. And he has this framework called the Disc Cafe method. And it's how to break down and deconstruct a skill and then elaborate on the skill to find what the 80-20 is to just learn the 20% so you get 80% command over that skill. Okay. So what Ronsley did a long, long time ago is created this AI, which will take anything that you want to learn and use that framework to break it down. So you can say, I want to learn to run 10Ks in the next 3 months. This is a really interesting one. And I put these examples here for a reason, because sometimes we don't really know what is possible. So this will take any skill and a time frame. So those are the things you want. It needs as input. So if I just said, help me learn selling online, it should ask me how long so it's programmed in such a way to actually ask me for the input. It asks me what it needs for the input. I'm just going to start again and I'm going to say, help me learn how to sell on a webinar in 10 hours. Then it takes that skill and says, okay, if you have this kind of time, this is the 80-20. The 20% that you'll learn for 80% of the results is you'll learn how to craft a compelling offer, structure a persuasive presentation, and build trust through storytelling and social proof. Only 3 things you got to learn, which is fascinating, because if you had to say, for example, you were going to sell on a webinar in 2025 and you wanted to find who is the leader in the space, you would probably go and do a search and find social and buy someone's course, right? That person might have only done it in one particular way, and they might teach you all these other things, but actually you only need 3 things to learn. You only need to learn these 3 things at this point before you start to say, okay, I know these 3 things, let me start to learn the other things. So then it goes, okay, now based on that, here's the selection and here's how you focus. You focus 2 hours on creating the offer, 2 hours on this, and then this is how you structure your 10 hours that you have. Here's your sequencing for optimal learning. First learn this so that you can then learn that and then learn this. So it's telling you in what order to learn it. And then it compresses it. This is develop a cheat sheet and the frequency, and it broke down your 10 hours. Just see one prompt to that. Now, this just takes it one step further, because if I went into a new chat and I said, help me to learn conversational Spanish the next 3 months, to spend about 15 minutes a day on this. So this is what Elon was talking about the process. This particular AI will help you deconstruct the process that you require. So for example, you could go in here and say, I need to learn how to pitch my workshop to these amount of people. What's the 80-20? And I have 3 hours to dedicate to this. And then it'll break that down for you. And then based on that structure, then you start to go, okay, now let me do it. First one, second one. So for example, it's like it's deconstructing and it's going, week 1 to 2, you're doing greetings, introductions, and learning to describe yourself. In week 3 to 4, numbers. So it's kind of broken the sequencing down and flashcards, vocabulary. So now I have this. The next thing I would do is from here, I would go, today is day 1, help me learn and give me a start. So now it's telling you what to do for today, the 15 minutes that you have and where to spend your time and what to do and how to practice it. It's also creating your cheat sheet, because in the first prompt, it's saying that the cheat sheet helps you with learning quicker.
I am so stoked with this example because I did it the old way. I really want to do a diff on your script with what I came out with, so that I can not only get better at my Spanish learning, but I want to get better at what you did, so that, Spanish is over here. And now I've got a new thing like sales presentation or course development or, every once in a while I just dust off Python or Perl and, I don't use it enough and I just run through it and I'm bad enough that I can be dangerous and I can use AI to keep me from going too far into the weeds.
That's another thing to notice is, and that's, I notice in myself that sometimes I go on to learn new skills, and they're really good skills to have by myself. But the new skills I've got to learn are the ones about selling and the ones that
Sure.
actually get the revenue coming in. So in this case, I mean, yeah, Spanish is great and you're getting runs on the board, but is it gonna move the needle? And I'm talking
Right.
about the business needle, right? And so focusing on that, I want to quickly just touch on software to new users before I wind this up. So what was really interesting that I noticed here as well is how at the start Scott was like, I've already done this stuff, and I'm like, just hold on, I'll show you something. And how it was very different to, and this happens a lot. Like, I promise you, a lot of the times, the most common thing I get is, by the way, Ronsley, I'm very competent in AI. And I'm like, that line in itself will tell me that you are like literally not, because it's intelligence. It makes you feel you're intelligent, I suppose. So the last one is software to users. So the way I would, again, as an example, I would say I have a financial advising software that is for, Nobby, help me, for who's the audience?
Affluent women.
Affluent women. So this is this part about thinking. It's not available in other models yet. And I'm sure Gemini and all these other things are going to come out with them soon. It's only a matter of time. And then the next step from here is agents, where you say to an agent, I want you to put a post out that does this. And the agent will create the AIs it needs to accomplish that task and do it on its own, right? So that's the next step. But even then, the process is very important. So let's start with some thinking, break it down into what needs to be done now. And I would really take advantage of the month you're in, December, because everyone's looking to do things right now. And I think most people are taking their foot off the gas and in holiday mode. And you can really, and I'm talking about people who want to make a difference, right? Make that impact. All of us kind of know that if we do X, Y, and Z, if we're in front of X person and Y person and in this group and that group, we know that we can help them and make that difference. I'm talking about those people, I'm not talking about the ones who are just going to make promises and not deliver on those promises. So take advantage of this fact that this is where we are right now and use that. All right, team, good to see everyone.
Hey, AI Geek. Thanks for listening. Your job doesn't stop here. I want you to lend your voice to the conversation. So you can join those conversations, discussions, new trainings, new recordings, and the rest of the AI Geeks by going to aigeeks.co. Also, share this podcast with a friend, another potential AI geek. Until then, much love.